Hey guys, how you doing? I hope you're doing well. Do remember to take a mental health break, perhaps immediately after watching this video, because this is a pretty dark and harrowing subject. I think I'm going to read through the majority of the article. There is a link in the description. This is a really harrowing case. Arthur Labinjo Hughes, probably the most troubling case that I've read through since starting this true crime channel a couple of months ago. I've not followed up with a lot of the articles in regards to the case. I've just found them a little bit too harrowing for myself, but I'm going to read through this one. Evil killers of little Arthur Labinjo Hughes could face longer jail terms. The Attorney General refers unduly lenient sentences handed to both the father and the stepmother to the Court of Appeal after they subjected 6-year-old Arthur Labinjo Hughes to a campaign of torture, physical torture, emotional torture, mental torture. It's just horrific. Going to read through the majority of the article. The jail sentences handed to Emma Tustin and Thomas Hughes, who killed 6-year-old Arthur Labinjo Hughes, have been referred to the Court of Appeal for being too lenient. 6-year-old Arthur was beaten and tortured before his murder at the hands of stepmother Emma Tustin at their home in Solihull. The case prompted a national outpouring of grief, and ministers vowed to take action after Tustin was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 29 years, and Arthur's father, Thomas Hughes, was jailed for 21 years for manslaughter. However, the killers could face longer jail terms if the Court of Appeal decides to change the pair's unduly lenient sentences. There is Arthur, a sweet little angel, an innocent 6-year-old, and here are the evil stepmother, Emma Tustin, and the father, Thomas Hughes. There is a video. I'm not going to watch it. They're eating ice cream whilst, they've not given any ice cream to Arthur. It's just mental, emotional torture. It emerged in court that Arthur was seen by social workers during the first national lockdown, just 2 months before his death in Solihull, West Midlands, England, in June of last year. But they concluded that there were no safeguarding concerns and they closed the file. Tustin and Hughes starved the youngster, force-fed him salt-laden dishes, and made him stand alone for more than 14 hours a day in a degrading, punishing, and hellish regime over the last painful months of his life. He was left with an unsurvivable brain injury while in the sole care of his father's evil partner, Tustin. So, in essence, after months of torture, Tustin was home alone with Arthur, and Tustin slammed his head against a concrete floor. And they claimed that it was an accident, of course, that he'd done it himself. They claimed it was self-harm. Arthur, whose body was also covered in 130 bruises, died in hospital the next day. Just going to point to this image here. Again, this is harrowing. There is a video which I didn't watch. It's on one of my other videos. There's a link in that description which will allow you to watch a video where Arthur struggled to pick up a duvet, a doona. He struggled for, I can't remember how long, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, to pick it up. You can see the sadness on his face. He struggled to walk to the door of the room that he's in. He's emaciated. There's a bruise, or the bruises. 130 bruises were found on him. I'm not going to be watching the videos. Manipulative and calculating Tustin was unanimously convicted after an 8-week trial, with the boy's pitiless father, Hughes, found guilty of his manslaughter after encouraging the killing. Yes, the father was sending text messages to the mother over a course of months, but immediately before the murder, the father was sending text messages saying things like, do him in, you know, beat him up, essentially. Kill the little shit, you know, that kind of comments. Back to the article. Hughes's infatuation for Houston had obliterated any love for his son. Sentencing judge Mr. Justice Mark Wall had said, and jailed him for 21 years. Referring the case to the Court of Appeal, Miss Braverman, I'm not sure who Miss Braverman is, referring the case to the Court of Appeal, Miss Braverman said, this is an extremely upsetting and disturbing case involving a clearly vulnerable young child. Emma Houston and Thomas Hughes grossly abused their position of trust and subjected an innocent child who they should have been protecting to continued emotional and physical abuse. I understand how distressing the public have found this case, but it is my job to decide if a sentence appears to be unduly lenient based on the facts of the case. I have carefully considered the details of this case, and I have decided to refer the sentences to the Court of Appeal as I believe them to be too low. A date for the hearing at the Court of Appeal is yet to be set. Okay, so we're going to go back to the article. Child killers like the stepmother and father of tragic 6-year-old Arthur Labincho Hughes will never be released from prison under proposals backed by Prime Minister Boris Johnson. Arthur's law would see anyone who carries out the murder of a child sent to prison indefinitely. Anyone who plans then carries out the murder of a child should never be released from prison. So we're toughening the law to make whole life orders the starting point for such abhorrent crimes, Boris Johnson said. So this, to me, is great news. So Boris Johnson is supporting a proposed law, which is being called Arthur's Law, which is going to make it standard, commonplace, just across the board. If there was a premeditated murder of a child, then whomever is guilty, whomever is found guilty, will be jailed for life. No questions, no ifs, no buts, no parole, no probation, no nothing. Jailed for life. I would like to see that, and I'm going to throw this in there too. I would like that to be upheld to women, for women as well. I've seen lenient sentences for women, and I would say that there are some extenuating circumstances. Personally, I do feel empathy for mothers, particularly perhaps young mothers, especially if there's evidence of postpartum depression. I do feel sorry for empathy for mothers that abandon their children, that perhaps have committed infanticide, but have done so under mental duress. You may disagree with my comments there, but in any case, I welcome this proposed new law. Back to the article. Meanwhile, tens of thousands of ghost children are at risk of abuse after failing to return to school following the lockdowns. Robert Halfon, chairman of the Commons Education Committee, said 100,000 pupils were lost in the system and therefore vulnerable to cruelty at home. I'm going to interject, that is ridiculous. 100,000 pupils, children in England, 100,000 have been lost in the system. That's crazy. I mean, how can they be so inept? Back to the article. His warning came as Education Secretary Nadim Zahawi confirmed there will be an investigation into the failings leading to the death of Arthur. The boy's stepmother, Emma Houston, was jailed last week for at least 29 years. His father was sentenced to 21 years. There is Arthur. I mean, we obviously don't know Arthur, but we have to presume he's a sweet 6-year-old innocent boy. I mean, it's such a tragic case. So again, thanks for listening. I'm not sure if you've listened to the whole thing. Remember to take a mental health break. Don't look too deeply into this case unless you have real mental fortitude. It is very upsetting. These two are absolute scum. They should be jailed for life. They should have the worst. I can't say what I don't think I can say what I want to say. Due to YouTube terms of services and such. Yeah, again, take a mental break and please make comments. Talk amongst yourself in chat, and I think everyone's grieving to some extent in regards to this case. Absolutely terrible.